Day 155. Proverbs chapter 4, 5 and 6. Welcome as we listen for what I like to call scripture whispers, those quiet lessons hidden within familiar Bible passages. They are not always the verses people quote on social media or preach about every Sunday. Instead, they are the subtle truths that can completely change the way we live if we pay attention. Let's begin. What you feed your mind eventually shapes your life. Pay attention to what I say. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. When many people hear the word heart in the Bible, they think only of emotions. But in Proverbs, the heart often refers to the center of our thoughts, desires, decisions, and motivations. Solomon does not first tell us to guard our money, reputation, or possessions. He tells us to guard our hearts. Why? Because everything else flows from there. Think about today's world. We consume endless content through social media, television, podcasts, music, and conversations. Much of what enters our minds seems harmless at first. Yet over time, repeated messages shape our attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. A person who constantly feeds on negativity often becomes negative. A person who continually feeds on gossip becomes suspicious of everyone. A person who feeds on wisdom begins making wiser decisions. Your future is being built by what you repeatedly allow into your mind today. Guarding your heart is not about living in fear. It is about being intentional about what influences you. The wrong path usually looks right at the beginning. Do not set foot on the path of the wicked. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun. One of the most dangerous things about bad decisions is that they rarely announce themselves as bad decisions. Most destructive paths begin as attractive opportunities. The dishonest business deal promises quick profit. The unhealthy relationship feels exciting. The little compromise appears insignificant. Solomon compares righteousness to the sunrise. It gets brighter and clearer as time goes on. But darkness works differently. The path of darkness becomes harder and harder to see until people stumble without understanding why. Many people do not wake up one day and decide to ruin their lives. Instead, they take one small step in the wrong direction, then another, and another. What is the whisper here? Judge a path by where it leads, not by how it feels today. A road that begins comfortably may end painfully. A road that begins with discipline may end in peace. This focuses heavily on avoiding sexual temptation and unfaithfulness. Solomon repeatedly warns about choices that seem pleasurable in the moment but become costly later. However, in modern life, this principle applies far beyond relationships. A careless loan can create years of financial stress. A reckless social media post can damage a career. A few moments of dishonesty can destroy trust built over decades. The issue is not merely whether something feels good. The issue is whether the future price is worth today's pleasure. Many adults carry burdens because they never stopped to ask one important question: what will this cost me later? Wisdom does not only ask, can I do this? Wisdom also asks, what will this eventually cost? Don't volunteer for burdens you cannot carry. If you have put up security for your neighbor, free yourself. This passage discusses becoming responsible for another person's debt. At first glance, it may seem like an outdated financial instruction, but the principle is surprisingly modern. Many people are overwhelmed today because they continually take responsibility for problems that are not theirs to carry. Some people become emotional guarantors for everyone around them. Others become financial rescuers. Some try to solve every family conflict. Some feel guilty whenever they say no. Of course, helping people is good. But wisdom teaches that there is a difference between helping someone and becoming trapped by their choices. Solomon warns against making commitments without considering the consequences. Compassion should be guided by wisdom. You cannot effectively help others if you destroy yourself in the process. You do realize that small laziness creates big problems. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. The ant receives one of the most surprising compliments in the Bible. Why? Because it works without needing constant supervision. The ant prepares before the crisis arrives. It does not wait for motivation. It acts responsibly because it understands tomorrow is coming. Notice that Solomon does not describe dramatic laziness. He talks about a little sleep, a little slumber, and a little folding of the hands. The danger is not usually one huge act of neglect. The danger is repeated small delays, one postponed assignment, one ignored bill, one delayed conversation, one skipped opportunity. Over time, little acts of neglect become major problems. What is the whisper here? Success is often built through small acts of daily responsibility. Failure often grows through small acts of daily delay. The ant reminds us that consistency is more powerful than occasional bursts of effort. Dear friend, please understand that our God notices the attitudes behind our actions. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. Many people expect this list to focus only on visible sins. Instead, God begins with attitudes and character traits. Pride, dishonesty, scheming, creating conflict among people. This is important because human beings often focus on appearances. We notice actions. God notices motives. A person can look successful while secretly operating from pride. Someone can appear friendly while quietly spreading division. Someone can seem trustworthy while practicing deception. The passage reminds us that character matters deeply to God, not just what we do, but why we do it. Your private character is more important than your public image. People may see your reputation. God sees your heart, and eventually character always reveals itself. As we conclude, let's be reminded of these 6 scripture whispers. What you feed your mind eventually shapes your life. The wrong path usually looks right at the beginning. Some things are not evil, but they can still be expensive. Don't volunteer for burdens you cannot carry. Small laziness creates big problems. God notices the attitudes behind our actions. The book of Proverbs is not merely about becoming smarter. It is about learning to see life from God's perspective. And sometimes, the most powerful truths are not shouted from the page. They are whispered. May we hear those whispers, reflect on them, and allow them to shape the way we live every day. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep seeking wisdom and walking in understanding.